No, but afterwards.
Oh, signing.
Yes, exactly. That's what Ivana was asking about.
James, you're so good. You popped on the mics when we just were ready. It is very exciting to have the wonderful Amber Guinness opening up our Saturday morning here in Cook the Books at the Ballymaloe Festival of Food. Amber is an English cook and food writer who lives in Florence. And if you're not jealous, there's something wrong with you. She was born in London, but raised in
Arniano, which is a sort of farmhouse about 20 minutes south of Siena. So, yeah, it's very beautiful.
Which sounds amazing, which we'll talk more about. She's a first-class master's degree in history and Italian from the University of Edinburgh and has worked as a cook in both London and Italy. Amber's first book, A House Party in Tuscany, featured recipes and stories from her internationally acclaimed residential painting school at Arniano.
Yeah, perfectly said.
Yeah, thank you. Italian Coastal is your second book, and I had the pleasure of meeting your husband and your son, who have come to champion you as well. Amber, welcome to the stage.
Thank you all so much for being here. I'm so excited to be here to show you some really vibrant summery recipes from Italian Coastal, which is my second book, and it's all about the joy, the dolce vita of Italian coastal life. So I'm going to cook you a meal that I love to cook for friends on a summery day that's really easy to pull together, not too many ingredients, and it's all centered around pistachios. So we've got some beautiful Baltycotton sea bass fillets, which we're going to top with chopped pistachios, some sun-dried tomatoes and pine nuts, and it's just a really vibrant, delicious main dish that you can pull together in about 13 minutes, so that's why I also love it. We're going to be serving that with some garlicky grilled tomatoes, which is my go-to recipe for sort of pepping up delicious, those slightly depressing supermarket tomatoes that are a bit orange and a bit rubbish. This just brings out the flavour and is so yummy. And we're going to finish off with a pistachio panna cotta. For anyone who hasn't had panna cotta, it's like a set cream dessert, very delicious, and we're going to infuse it with some pistachio cream, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So let's get started. I'm going to show you in the order I would do it if I had people coming over for dinner. So we're going to start with the panna cotta, because it needs at least 3 hours in the fridge to chill. Thankfully, lovely Sinead has made some, so I won't be keeping you that long. And we're just going to take these gelatin leaves and just pop them in some cold water to soak for about 10-15 minutes, or whatever it says on the packet. And in real life, by the time you've sort of faffed around and weighed your other ingredients and measured your cream, that would have been soaking for about 15 minutes, so it sort of all fits together quite nicely. Today, we have everything pre-done, which is very lovely. So this is 400 millilitres of double cream. And we are going to...
Just making sure it works.
Thank you. We're going to pour this into this pan with 50 grams of sugar. And then I'm just going to slice this vanilla pod in half and scrape out the seeds. Now, panna cotta literally means cooked cream, so we want to heat it, but not boil it. So the minute you see any bubbles or like it's about to turn or boil, you just take it off immediately because it's ready. So just popping this vanilla seeds in the cream.
You can get really great the suspended vanilla bean paste. If you can't get your hands on vanilla pods, sometimes they're a bit tricky to get your hands on.
Yeah.
That would be a good substitute.
Absolutely, yeah. You could probably do, it's quite strong, isn't it? So you probably need, half a teaspoon?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Enough. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll just get all those bits in, turn that down. It's looking a bit hot. Pop the pods in too, just to really infuse that with the lovely... Oh yeah, is that a bit hot, that one?
As I said,
the joys of cooking on a hob you don't know.
and in the middle of a farmyard in a tent.
Exactly. So this, I'm just going to give this a stir to sort of encourage the sugar to dissolve. Here we go. So that'll take maybe 3 minutes, and then that's done. The beauty of panna cotta is it's just a question of heating your ingredients in about 5 minutes and then chilling them down and forgetting about it until you're ready to eat it. And what is going to make this panna cotta, a pistachio panna cotta, is this nectar pistachio cream. And it's very like a chocolate spread, a bit like Nutella, but instead of chocolate and hazelnuts, they use white chocolate and pistachios. And it's from Sicily. And this is partly what I love. So the book, Italian Coastal, is not a definitive guide to all of the Italian coast. There's over 6,000 kilometers of Italian coast, so it would have been a much thicker book. It's about a very specific area called the Tyrrhenian Sea, which starts in Tuscany, goes all the way down the west coast of Italy, past all those lovely spots like the Amalfi Coast, Positano, Capri, and ends in northern Sicily. And what I think is really special about this part of the world is that every place I write about in the book has its own piece of produce, which they're super proud of, which they champion, and which dictates the sort of culinary traditions and cooking methods. In Amalfi, it's those thick-skinned Amalfi lemons. In Lazio, it's their Gaeta black, those very small violet olives, which are so yummy. In Sicily, it's very much pistachios, because some of the best pistachios in the world are grown in an area called Bronte, which is just to the west of Mount Etna, Sicily's live volcano. And so pistachios are super important in Sicilian cooking, both in savoury and in sweet cooking. So that's why I thought it'd be really lovely today to show you a savoury dish and a sweet dish, both with pistachios. So I've been chatting, and that is ready. So that's all ready. These are probably fine. Exactly. So the gelatin, in theory, has been soaking for 10 or 15 minutes. I'm just picking that up with my hands, squeezing out any excess liquid, and I'm just going to pop that into the hot cream and stir that around so it fully dissolves. Now, lots of people are a bit frightened of panna cotta because sometimes the gelatin and the cream can sort of separate and go in different directions in the fridge. But I find the way to avoid that is just let it all cool down to room temperature before you put it in the fridge so you don't get that shock of the temperature change. It makes a huge difference. And then lots of people strain their cream to also make sure that there's no sort of stray gelatin. It's never happened to me, so I don't bother, but you can if for peace of mind if you'd like to. So I think this cream is very hot, so all that gelatin should have dissolved. And I'm just going to pour this into this bowl and fish out those vanilla pods. Do you want using? Oh yeah, that's really kind. Thank you. Brilliant. Where are you? There's one. And we're going to mix through the pistachio cream, and that's going to dissolve and impart that lovely pistachio flavour and sort of pale green colour. I mean, it looks a bit intensely green now. It'll be lovely when it's mixed with the cream. And one thing I would say is I tested this recipe with so many variations of amounts of this cream, and because it's so delicious, obviously it's very tempting to put lots of it in, because you think, oh, it'll just be more pistachio-y. But actually, if you think about what happens to Nutella if you put it in the fridge, it sets. So it's the same with, sort of gets quite thick and difficult to spoon out, not spreadable. So it's the same with this stuff. Basically, it will set your panna cotta and become too dense and a bit overly sweet. So we're just going to mix this up. Oh yeah, that might be better. How much do you want? I think it's about 80. It's 80 grams, I think.
Oh,
80 grams. So it's sort of. What is that? Maybe 5 tablespoons, if you're not measuring.
5 tablespoons,
something like that. Because also the consistency of panna cotta, you want it to be creamy. You don't want it to be rubbery, and you don't really want much resistance when you put the spoon in. So that's just turning this lovely pale green colour, which when mixed with that gorgeous cream. And now that's ready. Now we just portion that out into glasses and put it in the fridge, and you can forget about it until you're ready to serve your dessert. Do we have maybe like a ladle?
Yes, we do.
Yes, thank you. So
generous.
And this is a very generous one. I love it. And this is purely aesthetic, but I would always serve this in a glass, I wouldn't put it in a mould and then turn it out, purely because a sort of mound of green stuff on your plate isn't very pretty, whereas it does look lovely in these glasses. So I'm making a bit of a mess. Now, lovely Sinead has actually made some yesterday, and they are set, so I can just show you how I would finish them off before serving. So now these, again, just to avoid the gelatin and the cream separating, I would I would leave those probably to cool down to room temperature for 20 minutes or so, covered with a tea towel, and then transfer them to the fridge. This makes about 4. I'm not gonna show you me ladling for hours. So these, those are perfect, Sinead. How delicious. So I'm just gonna get a few, maybe, what is that? That's 2 or 3 tablespoons of pistachios, and just roughly chop them so you see that gorgeous green color on the inside. And also, we're going to pop these on top of the panna cottas, also to give them a little bit of texture. You know, just slight change, variation when you spoon into it and eat it. And also, I have forgotten about one of these in the fridge for about 5 days, and I ate it, and it was perfect. So you really can make this ahead of time. So I just sort of, I mean, you can do it how you like, really, but I normally put a little bit on the side, like so. And there you have it. This is a really, I think, elegant, unusual, delicious dessert, which is also deceptively simple, but sort of impressive. If I have them, if they're in season, I will, just to kind of add a little bit of acidity, I'll sometimes add some raspberries. But you don't have to.
Pistachio's having quite the moment, isn't it?
Yes, I think everyone's realised.
Yeah.
It's delicious. You know, why not? And also we're so lucky now because obviously some of the best in the world are grown in Sicily. I think some in South America, kind of all over. But you can get amazing pistachios now in the supermarket. And I mean, it's incredible. I don't know where it's gone, but that pistachio cream, that jar, that was an own brand from an Irish supermarket, wasn't it?
Yes.
Which, when I was a child growing up in Tuscany, you could not get that stuff unless you went to Sicily. Now it's not only available in Tuscany, it's available here in West Cork. So we're very, very lucky. But yes, here you have it. That is our dessert ready to go. Now, thank you so much, Tracy.
No worries.
So now we're going to move on to the savoury portion of our summery dinner. And these are our ingredients for our garlicky grilled tomatoes. Make a little bit of space. And I'm so excited because about 5 minutes ago, this delicious Irish salt was delivered to the tent.
Hand-delivered by the maker.
Exactly. I mean, we're very lucky. Shall I move that? And then we'll pop the tomatoes
absolutely.
Where those were.
I'll put them behind and make everyone jealous.
Thank you. So the key to these tomatoes is a very delicious olive oil, which you infuse with lots and lots of garlic, some oregano, some sliced chilli, and some chili flakes if you like things very spicy. Those are optional. You know, obviously adjust it to your own palate. I actually think we have enough of all of this, so
Beautiful.
I'm gonna.
Thank you.
I mean, what I would say is, I was going to chop one of these just to show you, but Sinead's done it so beautifully. So it's quite a lot of garlic, it's sort of 8 to 10 cloves, and I slice them with a knife as thin as you can get them, because what we're going to do is we're going to very, very gently cook them, almost poach them in lots of olive oil, so they get really sticky and they really, you coax that flavour out, and then we're going to brush that oil over sliced tomatoes and grill them on a high heat. And again, you can make this ahead. They're delicious at room temperature, so really good as part of a kind of big summery buffet. So in goes about 100 ml of olive oil. So that's hi Milo, my son. Then all the garlic, all the sliced garlic, into the olive oil. Sorry about that. It's not liking the sharing of the mama. Then this is about a tablespoon of oregano. Now, oregano grows wild across the mountains along the Tyrrhenian coast, which is the area I write about in the book. And oregano, I think in Greek, means something like magic mountain or golden mountain. So that's a very particular flavour of this part of the world. We're just adding that into the oil. In goes the garlic. Make sure that's all properly submerged. There we go. And then I'm going to set that onto a low heat again, just to coax out those flavours. What you really don't want is like a sort of furious fry, because it'll just burn the garlic and they'll be very bitter. And what's going to happen later, so we're going to brush the oil over the tomatoes, but we are also then going to use that sort of all these bits which we've cooked in the oil to decorate and as a kind of texture at the end. So I tried to get these green bits off, but they were not very, yeah, no, I'm going to have to cut them out. So I'm going to chop our tomatoes. And now we're not going to use the grill in here because we're going to use the oven for the fish. But lovely Amy is going to run these across to a preheated oven with the grill preheated to sort of 200, 220.
Amy, behind the scenes, is currently a student on the 12-week course at Ballymaloe Cookery School. And so she's been thrown into the deep end, but what a beautiful deep end to start with. This amazing Amber Guinness. So Amy, you're a star. We love you for it. And then, I don't know if you realise, Sinead here, Beauclair behind as well, is Ballymaloe Cookery School alumni as well. And
thank you. I know, they're the magic fairies who make sure this all happens smoothly. I know, and that panna cotta literally was the most perfect. I could feel it. It was perfect consistency. Not at all hard, soft. It's going to be whoever gets to eat that later. Lucky things. Perfect. So I'm slicing these tomatoes to maybe 1/2 centimetre. Again, if you go thicker or thinner, don't worry about it. No need to get the ruler out. And I'm just slightly overlapping them in one layer on this roasting dish, keeping an eye on my oil. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, you're
slight, gentle, yeah. And that's going to be about 5 minutes. And actually, in maybe a minute or so, that's good, that's reminded me, I've got some parsley stalks here. I'm just going to slice those in half and add those into that garlic. Again, that's going to go really, A, impart its flavour, and B, add just a nice little texture. And then we're going to add some fresh parsley as well at the end once we plate up these tomatoes. Now, here we go.
Can you tell us a little bit about what life is like for you? What does your week look like? You've 2 cookbooks. You're a busy mama. Tell us a bit more.
So we live in the centre of Florence, which is a very beautiful place to live. A huge part of that is that I'm so excited by the food scene. There's some of the best produce in the world, in Tuscany and also in Florence and Italy particularly. In the area I live in, it's a lot to do actually with the Mediterranean Sea because we have 3 active volcanoes, and those volcanoes, so Vesuvius, Etna, and Stromboli, and all of those sort of minerals from the volcano impart all the deliciousness into the soil, and that's why some of the best tomatoes in the world are from Naples, and you get these amazing pistachios, so we're very lucky. But yeah, day to day, I'm cooking, I'm writing about food. We host residential painting courses at my family's home where I grew up. And so I cook for about 18 people at a time, hungry painters who are there for sort of delicious food and creativity.
Wow.
And my first book was all about hosting and those meals I was making for those big groups. And then, yes, Italian Coastal is much more an exploration of the history and culinary scene and why the produce of this part of the world is so particularly good.
Amazing. And how important food is.
Yes.
For concentration, for creativity.
It's very important.
And bringing people together.
I know, yes. I mean, our art instructor on our painting course, I remember after the first year I'd done it, I wasn't very experienced, and he said, stop giving them such heavy lunches. They can't paint in the afternoon. So that's really encouraged me to learn all about, sort of what's nutritious and delicious, but also doesn't send you to sleep at the end of the day. I'm going to keep that on. I'm just keeping a little eye on this because it is a bit... It's sort of easy, you chuck it in, but you do want to keep an eye on it just so it doesn't go over, because you want to keep these garlic slices really yummy and sticky and a bit soft at the end. So that's nearly ready. Yes, okay. So I've got a pastry brush, and now I'm going to add these delicious flavours to these tomatoes. So I've got a pastry brush, I'm going to dip that in that oil, and just liberally brush that all over these tomatoes. Again, I would say this is sort of for 4 to 6 people maybe. So if you were making your 4 sea bass fillets, you could have this and then have some left over for the rest of the week. That oil is really gorgeous, so make sure you have some yummy bread to dip into it on the plate or while you're cooking.
I love it.
I know.
Wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to put sort of the garlic and the bits on it now because it'll burn when it's grilling. but later on, they are going to be a key part of this recipe. And now these tomatoes, full of water, I actually haven't tried one. Do we consider them good tomatoes or sort of ish tomatoes?
Am I
ish? Yeah, exactly. So they could take, I would say, a lot of seasoning. They're probably full of water. So I'm using this beautiful curry salt, and I'm just I'm going to go quite heavy on the salt on these. They can take it. There we go. And those are ready to grill. So we're going to grill those at 220 for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. You want the tomatoes to get a little bit of colour around the edges, but not to sort of be disintegrating.
Yes.
Basically.
Amy's honest. Amy knows exactly what
Amy.
to do.
So we're going to set those bits to one side for now, and we're going to move on to the main event, our delicious sea bass. I cannot tell you how easy this is to pull together and how unusual, impressive looking, yummy. And I first saw this in a fishmonger, on the fishmonger's counter on an island called Salina, which is one of the Aeolian Islands, which is this beautiful cluster of 7 volcanic islands off the north coast of Sicily. And one of the islands is actually an active volcano. It sort of looks like if a child did a drawing of a volcano, that's what this island looks like. And they are very difficult to get to wherever you are in Europe. It'll take you a day to get there. So their culinary scene is very insular. They've always really had to rely on what they have. So fish, nuts, what they can grow. So this is and they've had to always be inventive. So that's why they've come up with this delicious sea bass dish. So we have our beautiful Baltycotton sea bass here. I'm going to get, is that olive oil?
Yes.
Perfect. I'm just going to dip my brush actually straight in there, and I've put some baking parchment in this baking tray. The oven's preheated, I think, to 180.
Exactly.
I'm just lightly brushing it so the fish doesn't stick. Not very much. You could even do this with your fingers. Super easy. That's ready there. Pop that there. And then I'm going to get these pistachios. This is about 50 grams of pistachios. And normally I would do this in a food processor, but I thought this would be a bit antisocial today. And I'm just finely chopping. In a food processor, I'd probably pulse them 2 or 3 times, so you get this kind of nice mixture of very fine and also roughly chopped pistachios. And look at that colour. So that is going to cover our sea bass in a mound. I suppose, would you call it a crust? Yes, it's sort of a pistachio crust on top of our sea bass. And again, this is 4 ingredients. Ooh, is that making, sorry, that's making a bit of a jiggly noise on there because of the chopping. So do you see, you've got fine bits, slight chunky bits. And again, in real life, use a food processor. And then we're going to top it off also with this delicious sun-dried tomato, just to cut through a little bit. I know we're serving it with grilled tomatoes as well, but can you ever have enough of tomato? I don't think so, particularly in summer. Here we go. And if we had more time, I would normally do this with a potato dish, if we're talking about the whole menu. So there's a really yummy potato recipe in Italian coastal, which is potatoes and capers. It has that yummy umami saltiness from the capers. You basically parboil potatoes, let them cool down, and then fry them with capers and garlic. And it's very good with the fish. There's another recipe in there, which is Hasselback potatoes. Those whole potatoes with the sort of lovely, sort of slices through them so they cook really quickly. That would be delicious with this. But, any your favorite potato dish with this, highly recommend. Maybe a green salad. As well, that would be really lovely if we're thinking about how to cook for friends in the summer. So look, I'm just going to mound that over like this. I'm not going to press it down because I don't want to sort of affect the texture of the fish. It'll stay on there. And then, so we're just dividing up this pistachio crumb over all that delicious sea bass, and then we're going to layer up some more flavours with these gorgeous tomatoes, which Sinead's very kindly pre-chopped. Now, Now, if you'd done this in a food processor, you would have had, they would be more covered, but I was busy chatting to you. So I'd say you kind of don't want to see any of the white of the fish in normal life. You want it to be completely green. But, so now we're just going to dot over a few bits of these sliced sun-dried tomatoes. And that, again, is just going to bring some vibrancy. Sorry, my hair's in the way. Some vibrancy to this dish. It's so yummy. And then we're going to season it just with salt and pepper. Go much easier on the salt than I did with the tomatoes because the fish is much more delicate. It's not sort of a sad, water-filled supermarket tomato. Here we go. It's a few pine nuts next. Not, just sort of no need to measure anything out, just a few, like so.
The layers, the colours, the flavours. It's very beautiful.
It's a really yummy dish. And, up to this point, before you put salt, pepper, and olive oil on it, you could keep this in the fridge now until tomorrow and then just sort of finish it off and bake it when you're ready to serve. And it takes also 10 minutes in the oven, so it really is. It's a yummy and it's a good one, for friends. And actually for yourselves. I make this all the time for us at home. If I see some yummy sea bass. Again, tiny bit of this delicious curry salt. And then we are going to do a filo d'olio, as we say in Italy, which means a drizzle of olive oil, and that's how you finish things off. I'm just going to get this spoon, actually, because this jug is looking a bit... Just a little bit like that. And then this is going to go in the oven for 10, 12 minutes, basically.
Fantastic.
Yeah. What time are we on? Okay, we've got 10 minutes. I wonder if how our tomatoes are doing. What do we think?
Yeah.
Perfect. Those can go.
Fabulous. Thanks, Amber.
No worries. Perfect. Does anyone have any questions at all? We got... They're unsalted, exactly, yes. So the sort of fresh... I think in the sort of baking section, that's where they normally are, if you're looking for them in the supermarket. And yes, unshelled, unsalted, because then you can season them yourself. And yeah. That was dried. But you could use both if you happen to see some. I always find if you buy fresh oregano, there's so much of it. So I think dried is absolutely fine. I think any shortcut you can think of that makes your life easier, go with it.
Passion for food started at a very young age.
It did. My mum was a trained chef. She's now an interior designer, so totally different. But
related.
I suppose both creative.
Yeah.
And she worked she did a stint at the River Cafe in the early 90s because, yes, Rose Gray used to come to our house to sort of, on her research trips, so we were always sort of surrounded by food. And my parents moved to Italy in the 80s, both sort of attracted for work and then ended up staying and bringing up their family there. And my mum's way of learning the language, learning about the culture and meeting people was asking them to teach her to cook. So it was a really good way, as everyone knows, food is such a good way to get under the skin of any culture. And she was just very strict with me and my sister about learning from a very young age. If we were watching telly, she'd say, "I thought you were going to learn to make malfatti or gnocchi today." We go, "Oh, all right." And now I'm so grateful because, it's a great skill to have. I mean, I hear of all these very lucky students who just finished school, who come to Ballymaloe before they go to university, and it's no cup of noodles for them, I'm sure, when they get to halls.
It's intense, but it's lovely.
Yeah.
I think to grow up in an environment where you get to learn about food from a young age is such a beautiful thing, and very similar for me. Great mother, great cook as well.
Oh,
and for you to pass it on to your son, is he in the kitchen with you an awful lot?
He is. I mean, he eats everything. I'm so lucky. Yes. So yeah, he is in the kitchen, which is great fun. Sometimes you sort of go, no, no, absolutely not. But a lot of the time, food shouldn't be taken too seriously, I always think. So.
Yeah.
That's part of the joy. It should be a joyful experience.
Yes.
Not putting pressure on it.
I said something recently, and a radio presenter picked it up. I said, "Get into your kitchen and get it bloody dirty."
Yes.
Because we now create and build kitchens to create the shrine in the home, so that when somebody walks in, everything's perfect and in its place.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not reality.
No, you need the chaos. I mean, I know Tracy's coming behind me today and making it. My kitchen would not look like this if I didn't couldn't have Sinead and Tracy here. It would be total pandemonium. But this menu is quite straightforward, which is quite nice. And I think it is. The book basically is a celebration of recipes that I think are fun and delicious, but also a bit unusual. So that's sort of what I wanted to show you all today.
The personality piece, your personality coming through.
I hope so.
Recipes.
Yeah, unusual.
Yeah.
Unusual and fun.
Vibrant.
Thanks.
Isn't that it?
Yes, exactly.
Tell us about, 2 cookbooks.
2 cookbooks.
What's that journey like?
It's been quite full on. The first book came out in 2022, so quite recently. They were sort of both off the back of each other. But I mean, writing and recipe testing is such a lovely process. You know, just sitting down and thinking, what do I want to eat? What do I want to communicate about these things that I like eating, and how can I make it easy and accessible for people at home? I'm so aware that I live in Tuscany, where we have access to such amazing produce. Same with you guys here in Cork.
Yeah.
So just really thinking and being aware of, if someone's buying the book in the UK and they have to go to Tesco's and get not very good ingredients, you know, how do we pep up those flavours? How do we make it possible to cook like a Tuscan or like a Sicilian in a flat in wherever it is? So that's a really fun challenge, I always think.
And is it a stressful experience? Like the time required to put yourself in a seat and bring it to life?
I suppose like anything, it's just you've got to get your knees under the desk and just do it, and then test, because obviously it would be so awful to if someone puts their trust in you to buy your cookbook and cook with your recipes. If it didn't work, it would be heartbreaking. So that's sort of the biggest thing for me. And then it's quite a solitary process. You're writing, you're cooking, you're eating. My husband's thrilled when I'm writing cookbooks. He eats very well. You know, he's a lot. And then suddenly, what's lovely is that solitary period comes to an end, and everyone else comes involved. The graphic designer, the photographer, the editor, and then suddenly it's this lovely collaborative process, which is so nice.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Sinead, would you mind having a quick check with Amy and see how our tomatoes are? Our tomatoes are at the other side of the grain shed, somewhere else, in an oven. So it's how to bring all of the pieces together in this tent on a farm is really quite exciting.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I arrived and said, hang on, we need to grill something and we need to bake something.
We're like, we've one oven. How do we do this? Actually, a quick look.
Okay, let's check our fish.
Yeah.
Oh, that's looking lovely. I think in five minutes that'll be perfect.
Brilliant.
And so, yeah, with the fish, you want it to be sort of just opaque, that lovely white, flaky flesh. And in 10, 11 minutes, that is the perfect amount of time. So really, we're talking a very quick dinner here, which is always really lovely. Actually, another variation of this nutty fish dish I had in Lazio, just south of Rome on the coast, which is really nice, is you swap out those pistachios for flaked almonds. Ooh. And that is actually really nice. It also can look like a sort of funny little hedgehog, but it's yummy. If you like a bit more of a crunch and a bit more of an intense nutty flavour, that's a really nice thing. You can substitute the sea bass for sea bream as well. That's a sort of yummy, similar thing. Yes, those are the substitutes for this dish, I'm thinking. Other delicious recipes from this part of the world are, lots and lots of black olives. You can do in cartoccio is a very popular way to cook fish on the Italian coast, which means, I think in French they call it en papillote, when you wrap it in baking parchment and just sort of steam it in the oven for about 10 minutes. And if you just add all the flavours in there, and you don't have to do anything. You just add, I think in the book there's a recipe with lemons, olives, again, lots of oregano, and it's just a bit of chilli if you want, and very easy, straightforward way of cooking fish, which is really nice. And if you put a timer on, it's hopefully quite fail-proof.
There's something that I love, and the reason your recipes are so magical is because our understanding of the word fast food must change to what does fast food made from scratch at home look like.
Yes,
and for me, that's exactly what you've created and brought to us today, which is delicious home-cooked fast food. How do you feel about the world of food at the minute, and how can we encourage more people to get those few minutes?
I think by as many people as possible bringing simple recipes to the fore. I mean, Jamie Oliver does such a good job of this, just really trying to seek out those simple recipes. I'm always amazed if I ever go back to visit my mum in London, and I go to a supermarket, they have an entire aisle of ready meals, which just doesn't exist initially. So it always really surprises me. And I just sort of think, actually, it would be quicker to make something than to heat this up. So just make it. But that's actually a big part of this book was finding those really simple, straightforward recipes. There's a few which, are great for weekend cooking, for if you've got time on a Sunday, but on the whole, they're quite throw together because that's how, Italians cook. Everyone's working hard. They need to, apart from on a Sunday, they need to eat quickly, and they are not grabbing a sandwich. They are sitting down and having a hot meal together, so you've got to be able to pull that together in 15 minutes during your lunch break.
It's very special just to hear that, and for a lot of people here, it is a case of it's a fast-paced life.
Yeah.
And to hear that, yes, you're in a fast-paced life, but you haven't allowed that to interfere. And I smile because when you said there's a whole aisle dedicated to ready-made meals, that has massively crept in here as well.
Really?
And we're absolutely inadvertently, we don't fully realise that that's being pushed, and it's there focused on us when we walk into these stores and supermarkets. So a reminder to maybe pick up your cookbooks, to bring in the flavour, the colour, and that really, really delicious fast food at home.
Yeah.
Be shared, and sharing food.
And
What does
showing
that mean
people
to
that
you?
I think, it's a huge, I think lots of people feel this. You show love and affection through cooking for them. That's how I show my love and affection, is I'll try and make something delicious for people to enjoy and think about a lovely experience for everyone to have eating together. And I think it's really important, and you can't really get that. I mean, my mum, who was a trained chef, who now works incredibly hard and is an interior designer, she moved from Italy to London after living in Italy for 30 years and was very excited by these ready meals. She's like, oh my God, I don't have to cook. How amazing. So she's got quite into giving me these one mono-portion shepherd's pie, and I'm like, hang on a minute. No. This is not our brand. This is not us. Go on. Which is quite funny. So now she's gone back to making them from scratch because I complained.
The guilt and the shame.
Yes, exactly.
It's good to have.
Yes.
The weekends, I love the idea of prioritising the weekends, the half an hour, the 45
that
minutes.
looks pretty
great, good
delicious,
food.
doesn't it?
Yeah, that looks wonderful.
Absolutely perfect.
Nice.
Great oven.
Job.
So that's what you're after, this delicious, just white, flaky fish. Those nuts will have roasted a little bit, add texture, and that's ready. In this time, we've been nattering away about ready meals. You've got your meal for 4. Fantastic. And then as soon as we have our tomatoes, we'll just plate things up. And again, so there's a lovely, Italians are really good at green salad, weirdly. It sounds so simple, but it's not. And the key is dissolving the salt in the vinegar before you dress the salad. So you get a tablespoon of vinegar.
Yes.
Put about a teaspoon of salt in, sort of mix it up with a fork, and then dress the salad before you put the olive oil.
I never knew.
It's called insalata condita, and it's just fabulous. And that is the key to a really tasty, some really tasty leaves. And it goes perfectly with this sea bass with pistachios, those garlicky grilled tomatoes, and then for dessert, obviously, we have our delicious pistachio panna cotta.
I love it. I'd say the women are over at the oven staring in the door of it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Fabulous. All right, poor things. Oh, gosh, we did not think this through. And we're out of time. But anyway, what I would say, I'll explain what I would do if the tomatoes had arrived, which is probably on a big, not necessarily individual plate.
Can we go big?
Well, it doesn't matter because we don't have tomatoes, but on a big sort of serving dish, I would, using a spatula, just lift up those tomatoes in as many as will come. They'll be quite delicate. Lay them out in a single layer on the serving dish, and then all these delicious things that we cooked earlier, the garlic, the chilli, the oregano, parsley. Oh, here they are. Perfect! Do we have a big platter, maybe, actually?
I love it, yeah.
That'd be lovely, but let's keep that in case.
Yeah.
Should we pop the...
On the board, it'd be gorgeous. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, do you want to pop that there? Perfect.
Thanks, darling. So good.
Fantastic. So you see what I mean? These are sort of slightly slumped and a little bit brown on the sides, and we're just going to lift that up, lay those out in a single layer. And again, these are really nice at room temperature, so you can make them ahead of time. And again, it doesn't matter if you only have those awful orange, sad supermarket tomatoes. These garlic and chilli and oregano are just going to bring out so much flavour. And also we have that delicious curry salt.
Yes.
Which are going to also, you know, tomatoes love salt. Let's not leave any behind. There we go.
Perfectly grilled.
Thank you. Perfectly grilled, guys. Thank you so much, Amy and Sinead. And then we're just going to spoon these bits. Actually, do we have those pincers?
Oh, yeah.
Again, that'd be great. And spoon over this oil very liberally, because that has all that flavour that we infused earlier. And this goes so well with the fish. And with anything, really. I mean, it's also great as part of a sort of big vegetarian main. In a sandwich, these tomatoes are pretty great if you're sort of making these ahead for the week. And I'm just sort of spreading these around evenly. And let's just pour all that oil on, because why not? Because you guys can have it for your lunch.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. Perfect.
We're so lucky. Yeah.
So here we have it. A lovely feast centered around pistachios. We've got the sea bass with pistachios, tomatoes, and pine nuts. Very delicious, served with the garlicky grilled tomatoes. And to finish off, our pistachio panna cottas. And I really hope some of you have a go at these, because they are really yummy and very easy to pull together. So thank you so much for having me.
Guinness, thank you so much.
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you, Tracy and Sinead and Amy, the fairies.
Where can everyone find you over the weekend?
So I'm now going to be in the bookshop. If anyone wants to pick up a copy of Italian Coastal to see these recipes, some of the other ones I was talking about earlier as part of your summer feast. I'll also be somewhere later talking about the highs and lows of social media. I can't quite remember where. And I will be somewhere tomorrow talking about bread. So,
love it.
Yes, those are the
Amber,
two spots.
thank you for everything. This has
Thank
been
you, Tracy.
magical.
And thank you all
Thanks
so
to
much.
the audience.
Bye.
That was awesome.
Where do you want this?
Yeah.
My eye through the light, and she came